Dear colleagues, sorry for delaying our panel discussion, and we understand that people need some kind of stimulation with coffee and tea, and we are going to discuss decentralization issues. I just wanted to thank organizers for including this subject matter, and they would like to discuss this issue. I just wanted to introduce our participants. They'll share their views and visions about decentralization. We have two categories of participants: experts. They generate ideas, and then these ideas are developing into concrete and specific norms and regulations. And there are practitioners, mayors of the cities. They know all the positive and negative things about this process. And a couple of comments at the very beginning. I just wanted to draw your attention to the following. We are discussing decentralization, and we are discussing it within investment conference. And I hope this will be attempt to look at decentralization, not only at political side of the issue, and looking at via economic benefits and opportunities for local authorities and for the business, for potential investors. When we talk about that business coming to certain territories, they're not coming to the middle of nowhere. They are coming to concrete and specific community, town, city or village. And well-being of this community depends very much on how successfully a business works there. And pretty often business comes when local authorities are creating proper conditions for investors to come and work. And sometimes we are very skeptical what local authorities can do and what they can't do. But decentralization reform allows authorities to create certain conditions to attract investors, to make sure that business can be effective and efficient within this territory. And at the end of my presentation, what does it mean, decentralization? Actually, decentralization means transfer of resources and authorities to localities. But that's not only just the opportunities. It's necessary to utilize these opportunities. And I just wanted to introduce our speakers. Sergiy Nadal. He is mayor of Ternopil city. Anatoliy Tkachuk, director of institution of civil society, one of the fathers of decentralization reform. He was helping this idea to develop and facilitates implementation. Sergiy Sukhomlyn, so Zhytomyr city mayor, Michel Tereshchenko, city mayor from Gluchev city, Mr. Tkachuk, expert in attracting investments, EU project. I am Oleg Voitovych. I am representing Canadian project financed by government partnership project. And without further ado, that's Anatoly Fedorovich. Floor is yours. And the bottom line, what decentralization is about and what is our future in this respect. You know, Oleg, you quoted generally, what does it mean, decentralization, transfer of authorities, but to me it sounds that decentralization is not the process, and The objective is to create safe and quality environment for every citizen, irrespective of the place of living. Decentralization is only a tool, but to make sure that quality environment is provided, we need to develop. Without development, you won't be able to have any funding. Decentralization plus new approaches to regional development allows actually to talk about possibility to get a tool that will make life of these people better. But I just wanted to get back to previous panel discussion. I was paying attention to this, and it was nice to hear that IT business is developing and about our prospects. That's very much different from that everybody, all people are traitors or whatever. So, and we are going to talk about positive things as well. We were talking about positive trends in rural areas. We can see pretty good development, but some people are talking that everybody is doing wrong. All these people are traitors of the motherland or whatever. But what happened within last 2 years? Within last 2 years, couple of very important laws were adopted in Ukraine. One on a voluntary unification of territorial community. We have 172 united communities, and now we managed to get communities. They have the same rights, but unlike oblast cities, they have huge territories. And so for investors, it's a new possibility to operate, because these are people and territories, and there are no administrative obstacles and barriers within this territory. In December 2014, one budget decentralization happened. What actually happened? Tax revenues were redistributed, and that's not redistribution in a way of providing more funding. The whole paradigm of distribution of this money. Previously, it was based on expenditures. Now it's based on income. In case you are developing local business, investors are coming to your market, and you are developing more resources than average in Ukraine. You are keeping substantial resources. In case you are not attracting business and taxes from individuals are not as high as average in Ukraine, you will get some more, but less than used to get. So previously nobody was interested much in developing business, but now all the sides are interested in developing business, and actually the revenues, tax revenues, actually can confirm this conclusion. And what can I say? When 5% tax, when we are talking about excise tax that is allocated to local budget, in 2 quarters, that actually they collected 30% more revenues than they planned. In case there are 2 restaurants and drunk people live in the restaurant, and from one restaurant there are very limited tax revenues. This means they are kind of selling moonshine there, and or illegally selling alcohol. And just when we are talking about oblasts, Ternopil, Volyn, Zhytomyr, oblasts that are mostly agricultural focused and service oriented. And now we can see 134% capital investments. If we look at the land tax, individual income tax, excise tax revenues, we can see substantial increase because the reform that happened started motivating local economy even in the areas when we don't have substantial industrial production, and concentration of resources already means multiple additional revenues. I was born from small town that used to have a budget 1,400,000. The rest had 400,000, 450,000 hryvnia budget only to pay wages.
Right now their budget is more than 20 million. What is 1.4 million? It means there is procurement. If there is procurement, then this procurement involves local businesses. If the local businesses are involved, then they are paying taxes. So it means that the local life in the rural area is getting enhanced, and it's pulling up some other indicators like capex and capital investment. And local capital investment has been recently much higher than the money that comes from this central level. Plus the reforms for decentralization changed the approaches to regional development. During the previous years prior to 2015, the distribution of funds across for regional development had been done according to loyalty. Just to illustrate to you the principle of loyalty, back in 2011, the central budget spent 1.2 almost billion hryvnia, and 900 million was received by the Crimea. In 2012 through 2013, again, for all the regions, they allocated roughly the same amount of money, around 1.5 billion Ukrainian hryvnia. 600 million to Donetsk region, 300 million to Odessa, and all the rest shared the equal part. In 2015, they started the new instrument. All the regions are getting their money for their regional development purposes according to a certain formula. So every region can now understand how much money they can expect to come from the central budget, and you don't need to travel to Kiev anymore to beg for the money and lobby some interests. And actually today we have built a new legislative framework for regional development in line with best European practices. We have therefore created all conditions for effective local self-government development and for the amalgamated communities. And there's also an issue of institutional capacity. During the last year, out of 3 billion hryvnia allocated for regional development projects, more than 500 million would come back. The regions were just unable to disburse the money by allocating this money for the proper projects. Now, for this year, this year's projects should have been submitted before the 1st of August last year. But as of today, at 2 o'clock, they are having another interdepartmental meeting that's going to be considering projects for this year, because until now, not all the regions managed to have submitted all their projects. And submission for the next year will finish on the 1st of May. This year, none of the regions have done that yet. And therefore, we have this disparity between the legislation and the institutional capacity. So right now, by involving local resources, local expertise, and potentials are important to take advantage of and put in practice the things that have been envisaged by the regulations. by including all the available local resources, primarily the human resources, will help Ukraine develop on the regional basis. And in the wrap-up, I'd like to say, and coming back to the IT ecosystem, it was mentioned that we have more than 200,000 IT professionals who are working externally, and I think it is very lucrative, even for the local governments, because all those IT people, those are private entrepreneurs, third category. They're paying 5% fixed tax from their turnover. One of the slides showed that they're making around $35,000 per year. The taxes, of course, are miserable, but $1,700 of taxes to the local budget will be around 50,000 hryvnia each. So this is how interests of the local governments are met, as well as our entrepreneurs and international global corporations. This is the chance we have to take. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Anatoly. Do not switch off the microphone. I'm inviting our honorable city mayors to the floor. Who wants to be the first? Who wants to go first? Thank you. Sergiy Sukhomlyn from the city of Zhytomyr. Some of the decentralization financial issues were touched upon. And clearly, decentralization is first of all about delegating authority to the local areas and also delegating responsibility. If we want to take a look at this diagram, Zhytomyr has almost 300,000 population. The diagram shows how the budget was growing for the last 6 years. And this year we had a quality step forward in the budgetary process. As compared to 2014, our local budget received 369 million hryvnia more. On the one hand, the amount seems to be quite huge for our city, but on the other hand, we need also to realize that inflation is also an issue, and you just can't compare this figure straightforward from 2014 to this year's statistic. Nevertheless, there is certain growth of the local budgets, and it's quite significant. For me, it is very important to draw your attention. The green chart, the green pillar shows how much money we can spend for the city development. This is an important part of the development budget that the city can spend for developing its infrastructures, for energy efficiency, as well as other infrastructure projects. In this budget, when we take a look at the last year, in Zhytomyr was around 263 million UAH, as compared to the year before, the development budget's increase was 2.5 times. So we seem to have very serious growth in the local budgets. But there is another component here, and as well as other aspects in decentralization process, which is delegating authority. This is the authority that the central level has to pay for from the central budget. When we take a look at delegating authority, then this year 247 million hryvnia will have to be spent from the local budget to ensure delegation of authority as envisaged by the state. This is education, some subsidies for transportation services, because we have subsidized transportation services. And this also includes the difference in the tariffs that has been set by NERC and the real market. So 247 million is the reserve that we need to allocate in our local budget. I'm just telling this not to show to you that things are very bad. Decentralization is First of all, the mechanism that is bringing competition inside of the region, in between the municipalities. And decentralization itself is giving an opportunity for the local government to come to the competitive struggle with its peers. I'm going to show you some of the examples from Zhytomyr, how investment picture looks like in the last 18 months. On the next slide, please, I want to show to you the state's commitments to finance salaries in healthcare and education. So we're still lacking 95 million hryvnia. And now some good news. The city of Zhytomyr adopted its energy efficiency strategy till 2025. So we need to decrease energy consumption by, not the consumption, but to improve energy efficiency by 21%. All the energy efficiency projects available in our city are aimed at replacing natural gas consumption. In the last 18 months, we have signed the loan and grant agreement for 65 million euro. When we're talking about this year's budget, it is 10 million euro for the energy efficiency, which is not enough for the city of the scale of 300,000 population. This is the money that is already working in our city, and a whole bunch of projects have already been implemented. When we take a look at the sectoral picture, heating is 28 million euro, water supply 26, thermal insulation 1.4 million euro, and some smaller projects altogether constitute, related to bioenergy and electricity is the rest of that. Also in Zhytomyr we have the number of projects that have already been implemented with the support of not only international donors and funds like NEFCO, GAZ, EBRD, and World Bank Development Fund. We're working with private investors as well. We have built a biogas station which works on solid state waste, bio-waste. This project has proven to be quite effective. This year we're going to implement a number of privately led investment projects. This is cogeneration, biostation, biofacility. We have already developed feasibility study for 4 stations like that. We have Austrian investors from Sweden. Also there's interest shown by Chinese investors, and 2 projects are already kick-started this year. This year we're also starting a hydropower plant construction inside of the Zhytomyr municipality, which is supported by Swedish investors. Last year we implemented a grant project to build 4 boilers at schools for the total amount of $500,000. This is how natural gas price increased over the last 5 years for the heating supply companies in Zhytomyr. We can see what a big jump happened. And pay attention to the right hand side of the slide. In terms of the natural gas consumption, we used to have 61 billion cubic meters, and 5 years ago it was 96. So we have cut natural gas consumption by more than 30 billion cubic meters. This is owing to the projects we run together with NEFCO and Swedes on thermal insulation of the budgetary facilities like schools and hospitals. Zhytomyr region potential in biomass production. We generate the biggest number of biomass in Ukraine, amount of biomass in Ukraine. We will take timber. Zhytomyr ranks first in timber exports in Ukraine, so our potential is still huge. And Like I already said, we're starting 2 new investment projects this year on thermal power plants that's going to work on biomass. We already have the investors available for those 2 projects, and this is a typical project. You can see its performance parameters, 29 and 45% altogether, respectively. What I would like to tell you about that this is what I've shown to you. What I've just shown to you, this is what we've done in the last couple of years. We plan to attract more than $50 million investment annually. I think by the end of the year we're going to get to the figure. Yesterday already, I came back from the investment forum. Took place in Xi'an, the province of Shaanxi in China. We've signed a framework agreement with the Chinese. Right now, we're talking about involving the Chinese investors to the city of Zhytomyr and to the rest of Ukraine. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Sergiy. I have a question, maybe not only to you, but 50 million you said. Is this a lot or this is not a lot for the city of Zhytomyr? For Zhytomyr, 50 million, if we want to take a small Chinese town with a population of 450,000 people, because within the framework of the visit, we attended another investment forum. On that forum, they signed 10 investment projects. The average investment for a wind generation facility, their amounts range around $300 million. So if we compare our city with an average Chinese town, of course 50 million is not enough. But however, these are the projects that would actually do a lot of good things for the city of Zhytomyr for the short-term perspective. 50 million is just to survive in the nearest future. We're not talking about large-scale infrastructure projects. I just wanted to say a very simple thing. If you haven't implemented a project for 50 million, you're not going to get into 500 and never. So this is a serious prospect. Now you're going to have 50, then with God's blessing, you're going to have 500 eventually, 500 million. So who's going to go next? Thank you very much. My name is, I'm from Ternopil. I'm the city mayor of Ternopil. What I'd like to tell you about is just to first of all express my words of sincere gratitude to the organizers of such event, because we are building new Ukraine today, the country of equal opportunities, the country of development. And it's a very positive thing that one of the issues on the agenda, this is local self-government. I'm going to explain to you why. I think today, development of local communities and local governments is the push that's going to drive a successful progress in the whole of the country. I'm going to give you a very interesting case when Europe was actually suffering from the epidemics and from their internal wars, but the Right of Magdeburg rescued Europe when cities started developing craftsmanship. They were creating markets, and this is what actually brought Europe to the top. So we are starting this process in Ukraine when villages, towns, and cities have now an opportunity to develop themselves. Local governments are probably closest to people. The closest to people. They have most of the affinity to the people. They're mostly interested in developing their territories. They know about their challenges locally and solution there too. So it is very nice to realize that the decentralization processes have been started in this country. It's very good that they started with the financial decentralization, which gave an opportunity to increase local budget revenues already last year from 30 to 40% plus, and similar growth will be envisaged this year. What it means is that this money is spent for fixing roads, houses, buildings, schools, and hospitals. We have local contractors and national contractors and service providers. This is increasing salaries to the people. This is the taxes that are coming back to the local budgets. We have clear understanding that at this point it is impossible to expect. However, I'm going to start with a different thing. There's a lot of criticism that we have economic crisis and a political crisis and financial. Crisis has to be translated as an opportunity. This is the time that has to be used for not to expect a lot of money from the central budget, but I think the priority is not only for Chernobyl but also for other cities, just to work with external investors to involve foreign direct investment, long-term and cheap financing that has been proven by the IFIs. So the city has been successfully implementing projects jointly with the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development to actually for the water supply and heating. One of the projects is 15 million euro, and the next one will be $17.5 million. We're working together with the World Bank to restore water supply facilities and water disposal. We're now starting a project with a total amount of $37 million. And we have accomplishments in energy efficiency as well, because this is the thing that's really saving the money and pays back well. And that's why, therefore, it triggers a lot of interest from the business circles. So for the last 20 years, we've been living in the market economy, so to say, but communal companies still remain to be in the Soviet Union. And unfortunately, this is the niche that has not been successfully filled right now. So I think anybody who invests in these areas have real chances to make their returns on investment very soon, because it's quite beneficial and lucrative for the communal companies, and it's going to be much more lucrative for private sector. I have clear understanding that the biggest budget revenue factor is the income tax from natural persons as well as land lease fees. Some other taxes are important, which is real estate tax, and there are challenges, however, which I think all the municipalities are taking care of. The cities do not have a real influence how to attract investors. What cities can offer today is providing support in the permits and public services, and also support with the taxes. So in order to ensure successful decentralization, we need to actually provide some benefits to the investors, and also to ensure competition between the cities on how to attract investors. The legislation that was passed in the land use even makes this problem deeper. I want to remind you of Georgia, how Georgia attracted investment to their country. They were given land for just $1 a plot, with an indication how much investment has to be generated and how much jobs have to be created. Unfortunately, most of our cities do not have these opportunities in terms of their legislation and regulatory framework. Another thing that is important is tariff setting. Any tariff setting, apart from the natural monopolies, which is natural resources and fossils, I think has to be going in the sober system of tariff setting. Whenever you start any business, you need to know in advance what you're going to face in terms of tariffs, not to make anybody scared. So these are the things: providing subsidies, tariff setting, independence, and land use priorities given to the municipalities will also inspire and be the locomotive of rural development in Ukraine, and also development of local areas. There is such a saying in Ukraine: before you want to attract one investor, you need to kiss 100 frogs to convert at least one into a princess. But when you have no authority, no opportunity to really influence and create preferences for investors, you're not going to make a princess out of a frog. Our experts and our government needs to pay more attention to encourage real delegation of authority in the local areas.
Well, for the audience, and because it's for me easier than more familiar with the English language than the Ukrainian one, I will speak in English. I thank Empire State Capital for organizing this conference and for inviting me. It's a great privilege because I am the mayor of the poorest city of Ukraine, and my election as a mayor is pretty much unexpected. It happened to be the city of my ancestors that were Ukrainian, the Batkivshina Maik Batkiv. And I have discovered this charming, beautiful little city 12 years ago, but unfortunately, everything that I have been witnessing for those 12 years was just the death of the city, of my grandparents. And after Maidan, the situation got even worse, because after the aggression against Ukraine, all the residual business that was in Glukov was working for Russia, was people going to Russia and coming back, because we are a small city just 10 kilometers from the Russian border on the road to Moscow. So after Maidan, situation was very terrible. And the Sudba, the destiny of this city, was to be some kind of no man's land, some kind of places for all traffics, some kind of places for contraband. You have sanctions against Russia, so the French cheese that you can order in a restaurant in Moscow goes through Glukov. And you have no perspective for the young people now, except being contrabandist or tamozhny, or officers at the customs. The city was totally dying. My colleagues from Zhytomyr and Ternopil have the chance to be to have the status of oblast center, but the status of Glukov, would that be only as rayon center, was at stake, because now we have the administrative reform, and Glukov was such in a poor state that basically it has to be dismantled between two other rayon centers. So in this city, my grandfather was the mayor for 22 years and built a beautiful city at the time. And people remembered, and even if I was French a year ago, they asked me to go to the ballots. They asked me because I have been elected because there was no alternative. The same guy that stole the city and stole the region for 18 years was the only other candidate. 5 years ago, he was the only candidate. So the people asked me to go, and they elected me with very nice score, and I'm very thankful. And now I am the mayor of the poorest city of Ukraine. And people want to see how a European guy, isolated at the border with Russia, lost in an ocean of bureaucracy, like a small toy between very powerful administrations, will save this city. And because the people from Glukov are very patriotic, are very well educated, have a fantastic wealth inside them, I think we will do it. And for this, we have a fantastic tool. It's the decentralization. What is the decentralization for a city like Glukov? Well, it was planned to be from 3, because the population is diminishing, because nobody can afford so much administrative expenses right now. It was planned to be from 3 schools to make 2, from 3 hospitals to make 2, and to concentrate everything and to diminish administrative resources in order to be more efficient. But even if we do this, it will not solve anything, because the population will keep diminishing, and from 3 schools we make 2, and maybe in 10 years from 2 we make 1. It's not a remedy. And the administration, the decentralization offers far more perspective. When you talk to the thing is how to do it. The law says that it has to be the free will of people. So we made a lot of громадские слушания, consultation with the people. But the people don't know what they want. They want to keep their medpong, they want to keep their school. They don't want, the small village don't want to go with the big city because they will be lost. So people just want minimal change as possible. The administration, the bureaucracy says, oh, you have to make містобудівельні документації для 3 райони плюс изменение генерального плана. A lot of documentation that will tell you, like in the Soviet system, what the region will be in 20 years, and then you can just implement this. But it doesn't work. Everybody knows it doesn't work. It costs a lot of money, but it doesn't work. The administration want to keep the administrative resources that they have. They don't want to see anything diminishing. So they are also against it. So I looked at it, I said, how can we, in Glukov, make successful the decentralization. And I think business is going to save Lviv, business is going to save maybe Ukraine, because it's a fantastic chance to reshape our cities, our rayon, around business projects that will be implemented, that will be profitable, that will not only give a possibility to reorganize the rayon, but also that will give working places for the people, because that's what we need. You can try to save the hospital, and you can, out of 2 hospitals, make 1. But if you don't have working places, if you don't have money, in 10 years you have to redimension it, everything. So we have developed for Lviv 5 business projects, and because it's an investment conference, I like to talk just 2 minutes on each one. If there are people interested to share those business projects, then I will give more details on private way. Now we are at the border with Russia. It happens to be a problem now. In the future, probably it will be a chance, but now it's a big problem. So we have to find in our city, in our own means, the possibility to attract investors. 5 projects. The first project, in Lviv we have an institute for Lubianic culture. It's the plants with fiber. It's the flax and the hemp, the lion and canopy. And it happened to be a fantastic institute. It was the institute of the Soviet Union. And after 91, this institute, which was very high level, very well estimated worldly, all the fields of flax happened to end up in Belarus, all the fields of hemp in Russia, but the institute stayed in Ukraine without any client. So we are now reinvesting and developing the culture of hemp and flax around Lviv. It is a very, very big market worldwide, because not only it is used for textile, most filature now are in China, because Zhytomyr, they closed it 5 years ago, but it is used for auto industry, it is used for house construction, isolation material. It's a very, very big demand. Only Peugeot Citroën needs 40,000 hectares of hemp and flax, and they're wondering where in the world they can find it. We will give them a lot of hectares. So production of natural fiber to replace the glass fiber. The second plan is the wool and the meat from the sheep. You know that from all the sheep that were in Baranov, that were in Ukraine, 50% were in Crimea, 25% were in Donbass. It happens that in Lviv, and not only Lviv, in all the 3 rayons that we want to organize, Putivl, Krolevets, Lviv, it happens that 100 years ago, there were 50,000 hectares for the sheep. And then there were big filature that happened to be the other side of the border, but there were a lot of irrigation canal, because we have good rivers and lakes, and everything was done for this. So we want now to bring this industry back to Lviv. The market is not only textile for the wool, but it's also the meat, because I know very well that in France you have a lot of customers now for the meat from the sheep. It's all the Muslim people that are looking for supply. So that's the second project that we want to organize to the 3 rayons. The third project is the culture of the bio culture. We happen to be in a very poor shape economically, but the good chance is we are not contaminated. Our land, our nature is like Bavaria, very pretty. We have hills, we have forests, we have fantastic land. So we want to develop bioculture and specialties. And the fourth plan is touristical. Because we are so pretty, and nature is so pretty, we have a big potential for green tourism that we want to develop. And the fifth plan is historical tourism. This is more specialized for Lviv, because Lviv was not only the homeland of my grandparents, but was the capital of Ukraine, of the Cossack Ukraine. And we have history at every corner. We have in ruin now, but we have a theater that was giving plays in French since 1,725. I mean, 200 years it was giving French plays. We have a fantastic, it's here, water tower that was built by the Soviet in 1927. It's kitsch, and it will become a fantastic modern art museum. We have all the center of the city where until 2 months ago were Lenin, Marx, Tsiganov, and all those guys, which now is free, where we can build historical district, the same as Williamsburg or Jamestown, and people in costume can show all Ukrainian all tourists how the capital of Ukraine was living at the time of the Cossack. And it was very pretty because we were a musical capital, we were an historical capital. At the time of Hetman Danilo Apostol, Glukiv was well known like Salzburg or Bologna for the music, for the musical academy. We have the oldest musical school of Ukraine, and maybe of all the Russian Empire, former. So we have a lot to offer to tourists, and we want also to attract investors, because unfortunately we have no hotels, no restaurants, poor cafe, and only a legal trade of vodka. So we absolutely need to have investors to come and to build a center that will be no less attractive than Lviv or something else. Now, around those 5 projects, we want to create, to be attractive for investors, for tourists. We want business to come. We can also make technopark. We can make everything which is needed. We don't want to die at the border with Russia. We don't want to be another Transnistria or Dniprovsky. We don't want to be a buffer zone. We want to be the nicest, cleanest, prettiest small city of Ukraine and maybe small city of Europe. We happen to be at the border, so we have to be presentable. We have to be attractive. And I think that with your help, we'll happen to do all this. Thank you very much.
And that's the obvious example of decentralization when mayor of Zhytomyr and Ternopil are talking about their things. The Gluchov mayor was talking about attracting investments. So we have a limited time, so please, Vasily Nikolaevich, please take this into account. It's very good that Ukrainian mayors, and the key aspect is economic development. I'm pretty sure that in a couple of years that Gluchov development model will be studied by many cities and villages. What kind of status we have in starting position? This is regional GDP and what is obvious, it's substantial disproportion, capital and the rest of the regions. And this difference is up to 25 times, Kiev and Chernivtsi region. It is per capita, it's not as bad, but 20 times. But why it happens? Because population have to travel to other regions, to Kiev or traveling abroad. What we have to do? We need to create jobs to make sure that economy works. And it will be clear that indicators will be much better. And regional GDP demonstrate the level of production in this area. Let's look at capital investments. What we need? We need investments. Let's look at capital investments again. If we compare Kiev and less developed regions, it's a very substantial one. It's 30 times difference. Per capita, it's not as bad, but still substantial difference. But what kind of difference we have? Let's have a look at Poltava and Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast. Up to 85% of capital investments into the region. We are talking about upgrading capital assets and whatever. And in case these new enterprises will continue to work, the indicators will get better. And let's have a look. So in Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast, it's investment individuals. 2 billion, this is population invests into construction of housing. And substantial amounts are coming from those who work abroad and build houses back home. And when we look at local budgets, we compare it with national budget. And now we can see the results of financial decentralization. And national budget expenditures were much higher than local budgets, and now it's different situation. We have positive impact. Look at other issues. FDIs are very low, and this is not only because of investment climate, but as well because of military conflict and Russian aggression in the East. A lot of investors, they are choosing and opting for other countries. And plus loans are not actually no possibility to have loans with the interest rate from 25 to 30%. And there is a risk to lose business entirely. Let's have a look. We talked at the previous panel about FDI. FDI may substantially develop and help a region to develop, but let's have a look at these indicators. $45 billion attracted Ukraine, more than half attracted Kiev, but in some regions 150, 160 times less. What else? Why it is so? First of all, we understand we need to develop this system to attract FDIs. And international experience is very much important. In every country there are specialized agencies dealing with this issue. In Ukraine, unfortunately, 5 agencies were established to attract investments, but all these agencies were not successful in attracting investments. We need a very much professional agency to attract foreign investments. We need to support investors in a professional manner. And I hope that Cabinet of Ministers will find this possibility and this plan to establish the agency to attract investments. We need a single window approach. The investor deals with the agency, and this agency deals with the local authorities and facilitate attracting investors. And this shortens the time for investments. Investment marketing is very much important. Investment portals are very much important because 50% of investors' decisions are based on website. In case a website is attractive, so investor may be very much interested after looking at the website. Infrastructure. Let's have a look. All the countries around Ukraine are developing the industrial parks to attract investments. And starting from 2000, many countries have attracted, for example, in Czech Republic, they have attracted investors and created 70,000 jobs. So we need to develop such kind of industrial parks to attract investments. And we have 12 industrial parks registered, but unfortunately we lack infrastructure. I understand that in Zhytomyr there will be industrial park established, and hopefully it will be a model for Ukraine. And Lvivsky Industrial Park, that Dutch company that is operator of industrial parks in Slovakia, Czechia, Czech Republic and other, and investment climate. Rate in doing business, Ukraine used to be 144 and now it's 83 in the list. But investor pays attention and looks at the situation in the region. And to the right, that's rating of investment attractiveness of the regions. And number 1 is Lviv region, then Ivano-Frankivsk, number 3 Odessa region. And when Fujikura started working in Ukraine, and their choice was Zakarpattia and Lviv, and they have invested into Lviv Oblast. So 65 million euro investment and 3,000 jobs. And now Leone company plans to invest, and they are planning to create at least 5,000 jobs. So the more attractive investment climate in the country and the more attractive investment climate in the region, they have more chances to attract foreign investments. And it's very good that our mayors understand this. But at the same time, still local authorities have not enough authority. You know, we need to utilize practices utilized in Eastern European, in other Eastern European countries, Poland, for example. There are 14 special economic zones in Poland, depending upon the development of the region. In case not very much developed region, so investor may reimburse a lot of their costs. Why it is so? They are reducing corporate income tax payments because of corresponding provisions in the legislation. So we need to help them to invest into Ukraine, or investors will come to Kyiv, Odessa, Lviv, and just this system also is not preventing investors to invest in Katowice and Warsaw. But in case we are talking about comparatively small investments from 1 to 8 million, these preferences what they are getting. For example, they invested 1 million euro. They can reimburse some amount, up to 50%, and their choice is in favor of such regions. And in Turkey, there are 6 investment zones. There are less preferences in Istanbul and Ankara, and the highest preferences in the areas when investors are not very much interested. And they have different types of preferences. For example, for every job, the government is paying payroll tax, or there are some preferences in VAT and other taxes. I think this type of experience may help to invest in the regions, and we have to overcome this disproportion in development. And the funding that comes as people who work abroad, they are wiring money back home. And in the last 10 years, transfers, wire transfers, official only official. 36% are officially transferring this. Actually, these wire transfers of those who work abroad are equal to foreign direct investments. But we need to have policy established to make sure that this funding can help to develop regional economy. And this funding may be used for social projects. We need to develop policy at the national and regional level to motivate people to invest and to invest in the development of business, first of all. PPP, very important. So there are major projects, Odessa, Reni, and Lviv, Krakovets. These projects are huge and require a lot of preparation. But in Poland, it's sport, healthcare, service, and this is really good that business may invest into PPP projects. And the last slide. The success of decentralization will depend upon the development of economic processes. But economy depends on investments. The more resources may be attracted by the cities and regions, the more successful they will be. And we need to have different sources of funding: FDI, national budget, local budget, and PPP, lease arrangements, and technical assistance, international technical assistance. In case it will be the synergy of the above-mentioned factors, this will be very much successful. And I believe that decentralization is the reform that is very much trusted, and it will be successful. And Ukraine soon will change for the better. Thank you. That's the end of our panel. Unfortunately, we have exhausted our time. I just wanted to say at the very end, we are on the right track in reforms and decentralization, and as experts proved it, we are responsible for the speed of these changes, hoping for the better. Thank you very much for your attention.